I definitely want to try to discuss. I want to try to discuss how do we build for our own selves? How do we build for our future? How do we build for the growth that we want? And what are the things that are getting in our way? Now, Mr. Dupree, you're a successful automotive industry executive as a salesperson and a style maker, et cetera, et cetera. What's the greatest goal for you every month? What's the greatest goal? What is it that you want to do in a month?
When you say what do I want to do, is that amount vehicles, amount made, goes on anything, just in general,
Whatever
whatever.
makes the most
So
important sense to you.
every month, I'll break it down each day. I like to win each day, man.
You want to win each day.
Yeah.
What does winning tomorrow, Monday?
Yes.
You go there. What does winning the day mean?
It is starting today on Sunday by making sure that any of your clients, any of your deals, any of your communication, how business needs to go in order for you to have fruition in anything that allows for you to get paid. So anything that might be an encumbrance that would get in the way of that, for all of y'all that's wondering what he's saying. So that's the first part. And then obviously walking through the door. I mean, knowing that you're going to get in there, it's going to be arduous, but I'm going to score. I'm going to have some runs where I'm going to keep the chains moving. And yes, I'm going to move well without the ball so that I can make sure that others get involved to help us all get there.
So one of the things I guess I want to encourage you to think about, and other people, all people to think about, is like every day consider what it is you do. So if you had to look at your 8-hour day,
Yes.
or 10-hour, or whatever length of hours it takes for you to go to work, your life, your relationships, whatever it may be, I want you to kind of try to determine what do you do from moment to moment, from hour to hour. So here's the things that I think that most people will say. While y'all can't see Terrell, but I'm gonna ask him to raise his hand when I'm wrong.
Okay.
You get to your desk, and you kind of you look at your calendar or just kind of a list of things to do, right?
Okay.
That's 10-15 minutes of your time.
Right.
You go through your email,
Sure.
right? You probably read a bunch of email while sipping your coffee or your orange juice or whatever it may be, and you probably spend another 45 minutes to an hour doing that.
Yes.
Answering and replying emails.
Sure.
So far so good.
Yes. And now, just a caveat. I was actually having a conversation with T Green, off the air, literally, and we were talking about communication and how people were out at NAB making sure that they were communicating.
Right.
Looking at your emails on your device. But for the sake of the discussion, yes, checking the emails out of
your
your
email.
desk. Yes.
And so now we've knocked out an hour of your day.
Yes.
We're not perfect people, or we're not perfect robots at work. So you probably get up and visit with some of the co-workers and chit chat just a little bit.
Right. It's gonna be me and the biscuit, man, but same difference. In the morning, I'm definitely gonna be in full disclosure, fat guy alert. I'm gonna be with the biscuit.
Okay.
Yes.
And so you spend a moment doing that.
Yes.
And let's check voicemails. We
Yes.
gotta go through the voicemail.
Yes.
Return some phone calls. We're probably in 2 hours.
Yes.
Okay. You may have to go to a meeting, right? You're into 3 hours.
Yeah.
You have some time that you spend kind of just, going through your desk. Like now you've been to the meeting and you've done the emails, you've done the voicemails, you're looking at maybe some regular mail or trade industry magazine, whatever the case may be. You're just, hey, let me put away these files of the clients that I saw yesterday or 2 weeks ago, and I got to follow up on some piece of paperwork or whatever the case may be. You may see 2 or 3 clients in that time, hoping that they kind of walk in the door.
It's a good number.
Okay. And now you're probably 5 hours in. You got to take some lunch time.
Yes.
Probably even a snack time. That happens. There's a lot of downtime in certain industries.
It is.
But you know, you kind of sometimes you're waiting on the big thing to happen. Or
Yes.
sometimes you know the big thing is going to happen, and you just want to be prepared.
Right. In
Right.
the industry, we say it's only slow if you don't have anyone sitting in front of you.
Right.
But you're right.
You very well may have gotten a phone call from a client
Yes.
who said, "I'll be there at 3 o'clock this afternoon." So like at 2:15, you're like, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm not going to work until
Yeah.
you know this client who's coming in to see me shows up at 3 o'clock.
It's logical.
Right, because you want to be prepared. You want to kind of go over the whole spiel. Like,
definitely want to be prepared.
I know what this person wants to see.
Yes.
There's some other options that maybe he may not know about. Let me make sure. Let me check in with the guy and say, hey, is this car clean? Is it
correct.
available?
Yes.
Right. You spend 45 minutes just kind of saying, I'm not going to see anyone else. I'm not going to do anything. I'm just preparing for this meeting. You see that person at 3.
Yes.
He's running late. You see him at 3:15. You spend an hour with that person. Now it's 4:30ish. You kind of jot down some notes. You do some other things. It's 5 o'clock. It's time to go. You haven't raised your hand, so that sounds like a day.
You're on it.
Okay.
And I mean, I'm sure that's typical of a lot of what you're saying. I mean, this is the day. Yes.
Right. And that's the day for a lot of us, depending on what
Yes.
business we're
No
in.
question.
We're not waiting on. But what are the 3 biggest things in your day, in your world? The 3 biggest things that's going to take you from A to Z. Like, what's going to take you to the greatest possible thing? What are the problems that exist in your life? Or your work life, or your personal life, or your social life? What are the problems that exist that are preventing you from getting to your greatest success? And then to think about this. You just went 8 hours doing everything except solving the 3 problems that exist in your greatest life.
Wow. So, and that's deep the way that you frame that. Is that more of a societal makeup of what we are as humans? We have to go to work every day. We have to do all those things that you just said in order to provide for us and all of those, our loved ones, and everything beyond. So, you are right. Those things there are a number of things. We all have goals. We all know that we ourselves have to pour into us. Again, it's the airplane analogy. The stewardess always says, when that mask were to come down, put it on you before you put it on someone else. Well, all of us, or a good majority of us in the workday, do all of that you just so eloquently stated, how we spend our day. But you're right, none of it was anything about pouring back into us. And to your point, your question, there are a number of things that rely on our day to have to fall in place for us to be able to do that, because we just can't up and tell our 9 to 5, well, you know what, I haven't worked on my other business or venture that I'm working on, or my physical or health or spirit or relationship endeavor that I want to kind of enhance or improve upon. So you're right. It's almost like prayer and meditation. You have to figure out a way to schedule that. So we have to schedule our necessities.
Well, I think I don't think it's an issue scenario, or a scenario where we're concerned about what is wrong with work. I think we have to be concerned about how do we invest to get where we want. And I look at my own day and what I want for this radio station. And I spend the time in the email, and I spend the time going to a meeting, and then I do my expense report for the month. And, I speak with the employees that I work with and the other coworkers, and I answer, 10 phone calls, and, I go to lunch, and then I take some time where I said, let me just walk across campus and see, Lori over in Career Services, who's a good friend of mine, and just take a minute just to talk to her, because
Wow.
I just need to just, get away from, the office for a
Yes.
minute or whatever.
Get
and then
off
I
the
look
premises.
up
Yes.
at 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, I'm ready to walk out the door, and how the radio station is going to go from being 8,000 watts to 20,000 watts, I've done nothing on that. how the
Absolutely.
radio station is going to go from being in this position in the market to that position in the market. We spend all of our time doing. We spend so very little of our time thinking.
Wow.
And so I've been talking about work, but this is about life.
Yes.
Somebody wants to pay off their debts. Somebody wants to buy a home. Somebody wants to get married. Somebody wants to go back to college. And then you look at where they invest their time and say, okay, you want to start a business? How much time have you spent this week not doing things, but thinking
Yes.
things?
Yes.
Truly putting in brain power. And this is the beauty of it and the curse. Thinking about your problems or thinking about finding solutions to the big problems that exist very well may not ever give you an answer to those problems. You may never find a solution. You may never be able to figure out how to go from A to Z.
That's
That
deep.
could happen.
Wow.
That's not a failure, however. I submit to you that what that really is your brain learning how to think. I think one of the challenges that we look at, and I think some of the things that we've been saying for a handful of years, since, for instance, students have been in schools doing SOLs, that we're not teaching our children how to think. We're just teaching them how to do.
Teaching the test.
Teaching the test. This is how you do this test.
Yeah.
But how do we teach ourselves how to think? And how to solve problems and do so creatively with the resources we have. So what I want to challenge, everybody to kind of do is consider that there's a lot of doing. How can you steal time away from doing and reinvest that time into thinking? You're right. There's no way in the world that you can't answer the voicemails. You can't answer the emails. You can't go to the meeting. You have to do those things.
Most definitely.
How can you minimize that or compartmentalize that in such a way that instead of having 8 hours of doing tasks, chores, responsibilities, and have 5 hours of doing and maybe 3 hours of I just want to think about the big problem.
You said it, man, in the statement earlier. I mean, I'm so glad for this discussion. This is, cognitive thinking, just having time to reinvest in yourself. You are so right. Listen, this conversation about how you schedule time for you, it's like, it's like a care. What is the term? Self-care. When people use that, this is self-care. But self-care for your endeavors, for your dreams, how you self-improve. And when you said that you just take a walk to go over and see a colleague, which is totally unplugging from your whole day, even for a second, that's you taking authority over your well-being, your space, your energy. And so now that you say that, the first thing is to say that you identify, I need to carve out some time for that. But now that you carve out the time when you go walk and see the colleague, how do you, Maynard, fit in anything that's proactive to help pour back into whatever makes you better to help you get to more dreams and the 8,000 to 12,000 megahertz point of getting the station? What is it in that colleague piece? Because that's supposed to be a recharge moment for you when you do that. How do you fit that in there?
Right. And so in this life, you want to start a business, or like I said, maybe you want to go back to college, or there a dozen things that you want to do. I want you to really give thought to what are the things that are preventing you from getting to that space. And you will be surprised if you change how you think about it, that the things that are preventing you from getting in that space are the doing. The stuff that you're doing every day. And so, how can you get away from being so much of a doer and more of a thinker? One of the things I think that definitely challenge us is that um, we don't know how to unleash ourselves from anchor points. What's that mean? That means an anchor point is you're in sales,
Yes.
and an anchor point is when you have a client, a customer come in, and you say, "Look, you all work in anchor points every day of the week. On the side of the car it says it's $29,000.
Right.
That's the anchor point. That's the position where, like, this is where the conversation starts.
Okay.
And that customer wants to take the conversation to the left,
Right.
to $28,000, $26,000,
Right.
$22,000, and you want to take it to the right to $30,000 and 31 and 32 and 30.
That is so appalling, man. But I understand your point.
But what happens is, as the water goes back and forth against the boat, the $29,000,
Right.
your anchor will allow you, the salesperson, to maybe go to 28. The customer's anchor may allow them to go to 30 if things are right. But
Right.
the 29 is the anchor point,
That's correct.
right? So that's kind of, now how do we unleash ourselves from anchor points? The anchor point is somebody told you in this life that you have to, in order to eat, you have to go to work.
Oh, now you're
So
talking
you went and
now,
got a
man.
job.
Mm.
So you're anchored to a job. Had you ever thought about re-anchoring yourself to having your own business? Somebody told you if you want to have happiness, you have to marry a woman, or you have to go to a church, or you have to do this or do that. Those are different types of anchor points. How can you unleash yourself from the anchor points that you have, the current box in which you fit,
Restraints.
the paradigm,
Huh.
and move into a new paradigm? Have you given that thought?
Wow. Let me unpackage a little bit of that. The part that says, that you need to have other avenues outside of all of those things that we're doing daily. How do you add it in? How are you able to reinvest in you in a moment where, okay, let's take it. Let's take the paradigm. Let's take tomorrow's work day. That's the best reference I have. Tomorrow, what I can do is make sure that I treat it like I treat whatever it is like it's the competition. I mean, if you're pouring into it, it's just like business. So now I'm the business. I'm the entity. We win if I'm pouring into me. So it's like exercise. It's like drinking water. It's like anything that you do that you know is a net gain for you. If I know now, and I'm going to use your taking that walk across the campus to the colleague, I have to find a way because I've already carved a tunnel out. Here's a place where at least I stuck my flag in the ground. I knew I needed this space. Now it's like furniture. I need to make this a more safe space. I need to put some furniture in this joint. We need to put some curtains up. These are all ways. So now, what is it? How do we get to the megahertz on the station? How do I get to more numbers and the company get to more numbers and units and more gross? So there are ways having a better conversation. Those anchor points. A different anchor point. It's okay for the anchor points to be a negotiating part. We do need to have a place to where you can start to say, hey, well, listen, this is where the market says this is in a relationship. Hey, well, these are the things that I like from my spouse or partner in this. Is in life and goals and health. Look, each day I need to be making sure I do what the doc said about the mileage I need to get on my heart, or I need to make sure that I'm doing this piece to keep the stress down, or stop letting that particular portion of the day worry me when they just simply said, you gotta control. A good wise man told me, you have to control what you can control. You can control these things. Somebody getting on your nerve, they're gonna be running you up. They push your buttons. You gotta be strategic. Go the other way with it. Play a game of not being dirt ball and having an argument, but if they're coming at you a certain way, purposely make sure that you angle it a different way, but still had a conversation. They're trying to be a, Cool at the office place. No problem, Mrs. Such and Such. How about we do it this way? You know it's gonna burn them up, but you got the job done, and you still got a chance to win. You got to alleviate things that you can control.
Well, as a salesperson, there's another thing that I really want to talk about where the anchor points exist. I've been in radio for a long time.
True.
And I would have salespeople who worked for me, and I would say, hey, this month, you got to bring in $60,000.
Right.
And they understood that, all right, bringing in $60,000, I take 10% of that or 15% of that based on what kind of sale it was. At 10%, that's $6,000 to me.
Right.
Right? I wind up taking home, $4,000 in a month, or $3,600, or whatever it may be. And they say to themselves, man, that's good. But whose goal was that? They accepted that as their goal. That's not necessarily their goal. That was
Right.
my goal for them.
That's deep.
I put an anchor point out there at 60, and when they reached 60, 61, 62, 63, they stopped. I know salespeople that would say, oh, 60? I'll get 60, no problem. And the 10th day of the month, they got to 60.
Wow.
And then they said, I hit my goal. Call me at the house. If you need something, I'm at home. I'm going to play golf the rest of the month, or I'm going to go on vacation. But they accepted my anchor point. I had another salesperson who I said, yeah, your goal for this month is $90,000. And she looked at me and said, that's okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow.
And she went out and got $180,000. Or she would go get $200,000 in a month. Because her anchor point or her goal was not my goal.
Yes.
My goal was just to satisfy the bosses.
Right.
She understood, okay, I'll help you satisfy the bosses.
She had bills, other
Right.
quality of life items.
But if I give you 90, you'll give me 10% of that.
Yes.
If I give you every dollar above 90, will you give me 20%?
Wow.
So, okay, well, all right. Now, it's a good bet, right? Because 90 is a big number.
In the industry, we call that bumping you for payment.
Right. 90 is a big number. Her going to 180 or getting an additional 90, she can't do that. So yeah, sure, I'll give you 20% if you get there.
You were bumped.
And she said, great, I'll do 20% above, and I'll get to 180. So what she was able to do is not accept the anchor points of others in her life. Inertia is the failure of growth.
And complacency.
Complacency.
You know,
Very good.
the other part to that I like what you just said was it wasn't even a factor. It was an anchor point didn't exist. She just wanted you to show her where the ball field was, where the ball at, where the basket. How do you score? Oh, okay. And then, as a pool shark would do, she showed you that she could put it in the pocket every once in a while, but then she bumped you in payment and totally got you to commit because she knew that there was no anchor point, and also being confident in her craft. I like it.
Yeah. So, in this little bit of remaining time, it goes without saying the phone lines are open: 757-823. 9672 757-823 WNSB. Have you dealt with this, and how do you deal with this? How do you deal with getting out of the way of doing the small tasks, the small chores that are literally dragging you down, and avoiding the pitfalls of accepting the anchor points of others? When someone tells you this is the expectation, how do you meet that expectation but exceed it in such a fashion that you're actually reaching your own goals versus the goals of others? You can get an A in this class.
Yeah, for sure.
But can you get a triple A or a quadruple A in this class? Certainly the teacher or the professor will say there's only 100 points available. But does that mean that once you achieve the 100 points that the professor has set out that you stop?
It's book smarts and it's street smarts. They're two different curriculum, Life smarts. So you can limit yourself with anchor points educationally by only doing what the book says. Sometimes you can drive just like DMV has told us to, or you could also be a defensive driver and watch out for those that are around you. A lot of people always say, "Man, I've got insurance. I ain't worried about anything if somebody hit me." Yeah, but if you have to drink through a straw, for different situations because of said incident when you could have slowed down or not pulled out, even though you had the right of way. In life, we have to make adjustments in order to get to the next level as well. It's just not all, hey, the world, because I hear it in the spiritual world sometime also. Faith without, and I can't quote scripture, so I won't get on there and act like such. But I know faith without works. But then I'll hear, folk that come from that are there, that are in the building right now as we're on the air. They'll tell you, this is how it is. This is what the word says. This is, and then you'll say, well, yes, that's true. But this is also the situation. You have to meet people where they are and even trying to resolve it. So there is no straight line on how you get there sometimes.
You said a thing about defensive driving, right? You're right. I took a defensive driving course at a job that I had because we drove vehicles, and guy said something. Listen, if you pull out, you could say, I had the right of way and this person hit me, it was their fault. If you pull out and you could say, I had the right of way and this guy hit me from behind, it's his fault. But as you said, you will still be saying that as you are in your hospital bed, right? And so I'm saying that to say one last thing, which has nothing to do with the conversation. Young ladies, my beautiful young sisters, you may be dressing in ways that are comforting to you. And I'm not here to try to police your bodies.
Not at all.
And no one gets to touch you without your permission. And you can say if somebody did do this or did act in a certain way, it's their fault. But you are saying that after this unfortunate event has occurred. So defensive driving, be defensive in how you carry yourself in these streets. We the Unks.
We are. Hey, little caveat right there with that piece. And also for the youngsters, watch how y'all putting these, watch how, there was a discussion in the barbershop real quick. No, we got to get out of here, man, on that point. And I certainly don't speak for the ladies, the moms, the dads, anyone. But in particular for the young ladies, watch how you all put the youngsters in the clothes that are form-fitting. I see it's some dirty old men and women out here, that be in the line at the Walmart, that be looking funny at the cookout, that them uncles and aunties that be just a little too extra with the kids. Yo, stop. Just be a bit more cognizant. Everybody ain't looking at them the right way. So I'm gonna leave that way.
All right. Well, we the Unks will be back next Sunday. We're Hot 91, the Soul of VA. Yo, be careful, be safe, be diligent, and be great this week.
Yes.
Peace and love.
Amazing. See y'all.